All right, well, it looks like we're right at 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started, and hopefully I'll keep my eye on the participants list, and Shayna, if you would as well, and we'll see if we can bring in Mr. Wright when he comes in. Dana, you want to get us started?
Sure. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for checking in a little early. These Zoom meetings are can be a bit of a complicated task to pull off for staff. So thank you for bearing with us, and it's good to see everyone, literally see everyone tonight. I'm gonna hand it over to the mayor first and let him do the welcome. He just wrote off another meeting to come join this meeting, so he's probably has some Zoom fatigue at this point. So, so let him kick us off, and then we'll get back to the agenda. Okay?
Yeah. So, welcome. We very much appreciate everybody participating tonight. I've been on so many of these meetings. I was just speaking with Mayor Pro Tem Garner, and I said I think I'm getting a screen burn from the computer. I'm on so many of these calls every day. I'm a little bit concerned that I might go down in history as the virtual mayor because I've never seen in person. But I'm actually here, and I'm happy that you guys all agreed to participate. I want everyone to know on this committee that your names were brought forth by myself and other commissioners as people that are highly respected in the community, that care about our community, and that in some way or manner are stakeholders in what will happen with the Silver Line. We're going to learn a lot more about the Silver Line through these meetings and what's going to happen, but I can tell you I'm really, really excited that the Silver Line is going to be coming to Matthews. I think it's going to be a huge boon for our town. It's going to make things a lot more convenient if you want to jump on the Silver Line and go downtown Charlotte to eat dinner or go to the airport, or it's just going to be fantastic. And it's coming really fast. So we had to pull this group together. It's really up to the Board of Commissioners and myself to kind of decide what the best route for the Silver Line is. And I said, boy, I really would like to have some input from the community. I don't want the weight of that decision just to be on us. So we wanted to pull you guys together. Again, we know that you're all leaders in the community, that you've got a lot of friends that you speak to, and that you'll bring to us a lot of ideas. And hopefully this group will come up with a consensus of what the best locally preferred route will be. I do want to say, and I'm probably not going to be participating in these meetings on purpose to let you guys speak freely about whatever you wish.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right. They cut out the unimportant part.
The recording has stopped.
No, Shayna, go ahead and record it.
We will always have at least one staff member from town, and I think
this meeting is being recorded.
Sorry,
I'm really blessed to have Dana and Susan. I'm not just saying this, but I regularly get asked by other towns around us, can they borrow Susan or Dana for advice? We're really blessed to have them both with us. And also Jay Camp in our planning department will be participating at times in these meetings as well. So that's really good. I guess the only final thing I want to say, again, thank you very much. It's a little bit of a request of your time. I appreciate you agreeing to participate. And I want to thank Bill Stevens for agreeing to serve as our chairperson of this group. And so thank you, Bill. And that's about all I have to say. Again, thank you so much. And tell us, please advise the board what the best route is. Good luck.
Thank you, Mayor. Looking forward to participating and contributing.
Dana, you're on mute. If you could unmute yourself.
Thank you, Susan. Bill, you're the official chairperson, and I know we didn't get a chance to talk before the meeting started. Would you like to run the meeting, and I will fill in, for the staff recommendations or the staff review? Do you want me just to roll into it? I don't want to.
I think we should, Dana, thank you. I think we should just roll into it. I'll let you facilitate as much as possible. I'll
Okay.
try to ask for a pause every now and then to make sure that the members are on board and contributing and you're comfortable with what we're doing and saying, and try to get kind of facilitate some feedback.
Okay, awesome.
All right, but I'll let you drive the agenda for sure.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen, so bear with me. Let's see. Hopefully this works. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
I can see
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Okay, let me do this then.
You can move around the box of participants out of the way if it's blocking what you need to see. Or even minimize it.
Let me see if I can get this to. Oh, here we go. Sorry, just bear with me. I just want to. Okay, so you all can see the screen. Hopefully it's big enough for everyone to see. Like the mayor said, this Silverline Task Force is going to be a quick task force. I mean, we may get majority of our work done over the summer and then have to regroup in the fall to make a final recommendation. But the goal here is to look at the Silverline alignment, that CATS is developing, and sort of figure out if it's better or not better than what we're calling the locally preferred alternative, which is LPA, which is the first acronym you're going to need to know. LPA is what CATS calls the preferred alignment, and we'll go through that. So just so you all understand, hopefully, and I'm not sure if we've given everyone the official dates, but over the summer, we're going to try to meet basically every other week, twice a month in July and August. And then hopefully only need to meet monthly in September, October, hopefully come to a decision by October, November. And we'll go through this because the schedule, we're basically trying to fit our schedule with CATS, with Charlotte Area Transit System, the second acronym that I'm gonna need you guys to know. And I apologize for the alphabet soup. It's sort of our industry. It's like working for the military, if anyone's a retired military person. So Susan came up with a really great list of guidelines for effective meetings. She runs a lot more Zoom meetings than I do. So I will, Susan, do you want to sort of go over some of these things and sort of talk through what you're thinking is the best course of action?
So
Sure,
first
yeah.
off, Dana, Susan, if you could let me chime in.
Sure.
I noticed the screen on my computer is lagging behind by about a half a minute. But the screen on my phone is staying up to date. Is anybody else having similar issues? That Dana is introducing something that doesn't appear to be on the screen yet?
Looks good to me, Jay. Bill.
Okay. Well, raise your hand, speak up, let us know if we need to pause.
And I can pause. I apologize. I will pause between slides, let the video catch up.
No worries.
Maybe I should have put that as number one for guidelines of effective meetings. Thank you, Bill. For those of you that don't know, Bill and I work together on the Transportation Advisory Committee. I'm the staff liaison to that, and Bill is the chair. So what I've done is pull together some of the ground rules that we use for the TAC. The first is attention. This meeting is scheduled for an hour and a half in the evening hours. Not the most high energy time for most people. So I just want to just say, do what you need to do to maintain your attention. If you need to stand up or take a sip of water, use your fidget spinner. I always like use my pen cap for fidgeting. Your individual participation is what is going to make this task force successful. The second one is respectfulness. The intent of this committee is a diverse group of people and backgrounds. So please do be open to listening to different perspectives. Don't talk over people and refrain from holding one-on-one disagreements during the meeting. The third bullet is chat box. This is something new, right, in our virtual environment. We rely heavily on the chat box in Zoom meetings. And this is a way for you to agree with someone, because if you start talking when someone else is talking, like, yeah, sister, go, it's going to mute the person who's talking. And it's a blessing and a curse with these virtual meetings. So you can absolutely agree with someone with a big head nod, maybe a thumbs up, like, yeah, that was great, or type it in the chat box. Also, you can use the chat box for questions. And staff and Bill, we're going to be monitoring that chat box and making sure that people's voices are heard as another way. So that when you use the chat box, the facilitator will call on you. Fourth one is patience. You can raise your hand to be called on. You got to be patient though. It'll take a little while, but we'll get around to you. Or you can type it in the chat box, like I said. And eventually the meeting facilitator will get to you. So please do wait until you're called on in order to say what you were going to say. Succinctness. There are 15 members whose opinions are all important. So getting to your point as efficiently as possible allows us to hear what you have to say, and then it also offers opportunity for other people to participate as well. The next one, avoid acronyms. Dana. We're asking you all to hold us accountable for this one because we do have a lot of acronyms that we use. We work for government. So if we say something and you don't remember what it is, totally fine. Chat box it or raise your hand. Bill is really good at this with me, interrupting me and saying, what was that? The board does that to me as well when I'm giving board presentations. So please do ask us when we...
I hope that it's also on the agenda to share that meeting here before we march too much further.
Susan, could you maybe not everybody's familiar with Zoom. Could you show or demonstrate where the chat box is, how you access that functionality?
It's a great comment. So when you're in your window, right, where Zoom is, if you move your mouse to the bottom, of course mine is not there. There should be a chat box option. Does everyone see that? When you go to the bottom of your screen, there should be a chat box option. If you're on an iPad, I think you have to touch your screen and the controls will come up on the bottom. Does everyone see the chat box?
I don't see it.
I actually don't see the chat box.
Can you do chat box?
Shayna?
Hold on just a second. I'm looking for something. I think it's on the dots.
Oh, is it?
No.
Oh, wait.
This is set up like a webinar. Does that impact the chat box option?
Yeah, this is a webinar, not a...
Oh, it's not a Zoom meeting. Okay.
It's a Zoom meeting, but it's set up like a webinar. So I don't know. Do we
Okay.
not have a chat box option?
So then it would be a raise hand.
Okay.
So it would be a raise hand option. And the last one too is for those of you that are comfortable with it, if your dog starts barking or the ice cream truck goes rolling down the street, if you could mute yourself too, because your background noise will cut out other people's talking. All right, and the last bullet I have here, just to let everyone know, the public can't comment during this meeting, but absolutely staff will receive public comments and they can reach out to Dana or myself or Jay Camp. Our information is on the website. We might have it on a slide here, I'm not sure. But there are some public who are listening in, and we would like to welcome you and thank you for listening in on this meeting, and feel free to reach out to Dana Stujinki or myself, we're in Public Works, or Jay Camp, Planning Director, or Shayna to staff member support in the Planning Department. Okay, Dana, thank you.
Thank you, Susan. So we will move on, and just so you all know, this is the list of folks that have been asked by the Board of Commissioners to be members of this group. Bill is our chairperson, and these are the folks have agreed to help with the task force. And what I was talking about before is that locally preferred alternative, and that's basically what we're here to discuss for the course of this summer and the fall. And right now, we have a locally preferred alternative that CATS, which is the Charlotte Area Transit System, and the board of the town of Matthews has adopted, I guess the town endorsed it in 2017, the CATS's oversight board, which is the MTC, which is the MTC is, Susan, what is the
Metropolitan
Transit Commission. Yes, there's a lot of acronyms. And so they officially endorsed this particular alignment, and that's in purple on your screen. And that was in 2017. And so, they did this big study, and there was a ton of public input for this particular alternative. And I think a lot of folks were like, wait, we have a preferred alternative. Why are we doing this again? This seems very redundant. And it was, it's basically explained to us, and it makes sense that this alignment was more of a planning exercise than an engineering exercise. When CATS received money or they decided to spend money on really doing some detailed work on the alignment and getting it to 30% design and engineering, they had to take a fine-grained look at this. And there are 25 decision points that they need to make. And the alignment goes all the way from Belmont, and in theory, it may go as far as Stallings. And so it has changed. The boundaries have changed. Before, in 2017, they were all in Mecklenburg County. Now they're going into both Gaston as well as Union County potentially. And then there's some pieces that are difficult. One of the things that they explained to us was there's a lot of curvature, and they've learned through the Blue Line that having a lot of curves on rail is difficult at best. It's just a hard maintenance, and they prefer not having a lot of curves. And so when you look at the alignment options on that overview slide, you see all sorts of interesting lines going. And can you all see my mouse? Anyone see my mouse? Yes. Okay. So you see all sorts of lines. So this is Monroe Road. You've got, Family, I think that's Family Dollar right there. You've got all sorts of lines drilling through town. And so what we're in the process of doing, we're working with CATS very, very closely. And they're hoping by July to be able to knock down some of those alignments and then start talking in detail about really the ones that are more rational, because some of these Susan and I have already looked at, like, this isn't terribly rational. And so we're not going to get into the weeds right now on the alignment piece. Tonight's just really an overview, and then we will get into the weeds later on. But this is probably, Susan and I have been staring at this stuff for many hours over many, many months, and we don't want to overwhelm you all with the details quite yet. So I'm going to stop there, Richard, for a second. What we're going to do now is I wanted to do an introduction for everyone. And I want to let me pull up our agenda. Let me exit this. And I apologize. I'm not sure if I have my agenda handy. Let's see. Oh, no.
Carrie Lamson, did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry, Tom. Did somebody raise a hand? Did I hit a wrong button? Sorry, no.
Nope, I just thought I saw your hand raised. It looks like you might be holding your phone, though. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just holding the phone up. It's on my lap.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So I would love to do introductions for everyone, because I know, I'm not familiar with a lot of folks. I don't know if I did my official introduction. I'm Dana Stujanki. I work for the town. I live in town, and I'm the transportation planner. And do we want to everyone can see on my screen the list of names. Do we want to just go in order of these names, starting with Bill, introduce themselves, tell us. I was going to have everyone try to work with the chat box and give us their favorite ice cream flavor, type it in, but that clearly the chat box isn't working. I will tell you I'm partial to coffee ice cream. I'm super excited about Silverline. I think it's going to be, there's going to be some tough decisions to make. But I think overall it's a very interesting project. Bill, would you like to go first, introduce yourself, and then we'll just go down this list?
Sure. So my name is Bill Stevens. I've been a resident of Matthews since 2006 and the chairman of the Transportation Committee since, oh goodness, probably about 2010. Who's counting though, right? And let's see, I'm happy to be a part of this crew. Just a little background on how I got involved with the Transportation Committee and Matthews here is I sent a number of emails to one of the former mayors about how hard it was to ride a bicycle through and out of Matthews on my way into uptown Charlotte. And he suggested that I get involved with the Transportation Committee to make a difference. So that's one of the great things about Matthews, I thought, was that we have an opportunity to really make an impact in our community. And the contribution that we have both on this committee as well as the community involvement that each of us has, I think is well received, well recognized, and again, I'm anxious to be a part of this committee.
Lou, do you want to do an introduction, please?
Yeah, Lou Abernathy. I'm a member of the Transportation Advisory Committee for several years, and I've been a Matthews resident for 43 years, so I'm a senior member of this exercise.
Very good, thank you. David.
I think Fred Baylor is next on the list.
Oh, I apologize,
Yeah.
Fred is. I
That's okay.
apologize.
That's okay. Yes, my name is Fred Baylor, and I've been a resident of Matthews since 1986. I'm a retired Air Force officer, and I'm excited about being, part of this, and seen a lot of changes so far in Matthews, and I think the best is yet to come. And I'm just excited to be a part of it.
Well, I apologize.
And my favorite ice cream is coffee ice cream.
Thank you, thank you. And I apologize, David. Would you like to introduce yourself?
That's okay.
David, you're on mute.
Unmute. How about that?
You're perfect.
Okay, I'm David Blackley. I work in downtown at Renfro Hardware, and I grew up in town. Actually, where I live was just county, so now my house is in the city of Charlotte, but I've always considered Matthews sort of my center of the universe. That's where I went to school and that sort of thing. So I'm just glad to be here.
Thank you very much.
Favorite ice cream?
Oh, homemade. Anything homemade. Peach I had last night.
Okay, Wyatt.
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Wyatt Dixon, and I'm very appreciative to have been asked to join your group. I am actually a resident of Charlotte, but we are a locally based commercial real estate development company and have had a decent amount of activity over the years in Matthews. We are actually developing the first phase of the district. And my experience actually with CATS actually goes back to specifically rail related, goes back to 2000, believe it or not, when I was working for a company called Summit Properties that was here in Charlotte. And we built a project on Moorhead that was then called Summit Grandview. And we had a trolley stop. That's all it was at the time. And since then, we've built several projects along the Blue Line and have assets that are near it as well. And so hopefully we'll be able to provide a little bit of color from a development and economic standpoint. But thank you again.
Great, thank you, Natasha. Oh, Natasha's not here. Excuse me. Chris.
Hi, everyone. Chris Huff. I'm also a member of the Transportation Advisory Committee. I'm relatively new to Matthews. We moved here in about 2017. Moved specifically to Matthews for the town. It's family oriented, and so excited to be on the committee here and to provide input as much as possible. Favorite ice cream is chocolate peanut butter.
Okay, Bo.
I'm resident of Matthews since '03. I own a business, Matthews Building Supply, that's been there for 50 years. And this is the second time Matthews has decided to build through our property. So I'm interested in see what'll come of it.
Okay, thank you so much, Bo. Jim Johnson. Here's Jim.
Yeah, hey, been a long time resident of Matthews and own a business in Matthews, and I live here and I walked to school when I was in 4th grade here too. So I've got a lot of walking experience in downtown. So yeah, I'm interested in seeing how all this lays out, and I can't wait to help. So at least hopefully I can give some good input.
Very good, thank you. Kerry.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kerry Lamson. I've been a resident in Matthews since 2010. Currently sit as the vice chair of the planning board and been on the planning board now for about 3 years and involved in quite a few of these types of subcommittee activities. This one is very interesting and very relevant to some of the long-term planning that we've been discussing about some of these small area plans. So it's great to be able to participate.
Okay, Lynn.
Hey, my name is Lynn Lewis. I bought my house in Matthews around 2006, and I live in Prestdale, and that is, kind of right quite near one of the stopping points of the light rail, and I'm really excited to take the light rail, and I want it here like pretty soon. So I'm really looking forward and very honored to be on the committee. And my favorite ice cream, I either like coffee or I like vanilla with real vanilla beans.
Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. Okay, we've got Scott. Is Scott on the call?
Hey guys. Yep, I'm here. Can you?
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Excited to be on this committee. I was born in Charlotte, raised in and around the area. I am a former resident of Stallings. I lived there for almost 10 years along Stevens Mill and watched that grow. 10 years ago, I moved to the other end of the Silver Line in Belmont, where we live now. So I've got an interest at the east and west end of this thing. I work as a developer with Latt Purser and Associates, working on projects there in Matthews Station, street projects as well as others around the Carolinas and Georgia. So I've got a lot of interest in what the Silver Line is going to do for the town of Matthews and for commercial real estate development as a whole. I also am a board member of Catawba Lands Conservancy Land Acquisition Committee, so I'm familiar with some of the ins and outs and turmoils around some of the acquisition challenges this project probably has already taken and will still take. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Favorite ice cream is both coffee and chocolate chip.
Very good. Okay. Jana.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, my screen seems to be kind of behind for some reason. But anyway, I'm Jana Reeve. Have lived in Matthews, I think 17 years. My youngest son was 1 when we moved here, and he's now a freshman at UNCC, so we are familiar with the light rail. I have a small music teaching business that I run out of my house here in Matthews, but I also drive into Charlotte every day. Well, before COVID, now I'm working at home quite a bit, but I'm an accountant, and again, flattered to be asked to be on the committee. Thank you.
Very good. Jennifer, I don't see you on my screen. Doesn't mean you're not there.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Awesome. There you are. Great.
Oh, we just lost
Sorry.
you.
Been a resident of Matthews for almost 30 years. I'm a graphic designer for a medical device company in Charlotte, and I am thrilled to be on this committee.
Great. Wonderful. Thanks so much. Bill already had his introduction, and Walter is not here, correct? Or did he join us?
I have not seen him show up in the attendee list.
Okay. Okay. Well, again, thank you all for joining us tonight.
Can I introduce myself?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, of course, Susan. And Shayna's on the call as well.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Habina Woolard. I'm the town engineer. I've been with the town for 4 years now. Prior to that, I worked for Charlotte Department of Transportation, and a large portion of the work I did was on the light rail, on the Blue Line extension. And so I'm very familiar with a lot of the Charlotte area transit staff members, and also a lot of the support staff from the city of Charlotte. And it's I have a very high level of confidence in the staff. I'm also very familiar with the entire consultant team. They worked on the Blue Line extension as well. So I'm delighted that all of you want to take the time and be with us twice a month to talk about light rail. And and I also want to say too, in between meetings, if you have questions for us, please do reach out to Dana. You all got an email from her, so you have her contact information. And Shayna, you want to say anything?
Hi. Wait. I'm waiting for my video to start. Okay, so I'm Shayna. Y'all get the emails from me. I'm the cheerful voice behind the town of Matthews. It's very nice to see everyone's face. If y'all need anything at all, I'm going to be taking minutes, so I'm going to turn my camera off so you can't see my eye rolls and facial expression, which is a good thing about the Zoom. But again, if you need anything, please let me know. I'm here to help.
Thank you, Shayna.
Bye.
Dana, if I could make a very quick comment.
Absolutely.
I just like to say that if you guys live through this entire exercise, I promise to have an ice cream party for all of us. And I've never seen so many people like coffee ice cream. I like banana ice cream, which is very hard to find, but we're going to have a big ice cream party. So that's your motivation to stay involved. So
I forgot to say my favorite ice cream is mint chocolate chip, in case anybody.
That's good too.
Oh, mine too.
Well, thank you all for your ice cream flavors. We're going to hold you to that, Mayor. If we come to a consensus and everyone, would you say we have to come to a consensus and everyone has to survive this meeting, then we get ice cream. So that's good. So I put up our agenda. I'm going to share my screen one more time. And let's see, I think we are good on time. What we're going to do now is we had the greeting, we did our overview. So what I want to do right now is I want to roll into a presentation from Andy Mock. And so we sent this out. I don't know if anyone watched it. The Board of Commissioners asked Andy Mock, who is one of the senior team managers for the CAT Silver Line, to do a presentation in May for the board of for the town board, and gave a really great overview. And it's 20 minutes, but I think it's hopefully I can get it functioning and we can all watch it, because I think it's going to do a much better job of him explaining everything than me and Susan trying to explain it. He did a stellar job with the Blue Line, and now he's working on the Silver Line. So I'll pull up my.
And if everyone, while Dana's doing that, when you start hearing the presentation, if you could give me a thumbs up so that we know you all can hear what's going on and we can make adjustments on our end if needed.
Okay, let's see if we can get this to work. I do have to mess with the volume, so give me 1 second because you're not going to initially hear it.
I won't spend too much time on this, but just for instance, this progression of the 30 trans.
Can you guys hear that?
It's very staticky.
You
need to stop that, Dana.
Okay, is it not working? Hold on, I will stop. Not working.
Do you want me to try it on mine?
Bus services along the west coast.
That's better. That's good.
Can you see the video? Okay. Hold on.
a change in the Southeast Corridor for light rail to Matthews. So that was when the MTC acted and adopted that technology as light rail in the Southeast Corridor.
Dana, we have audio, not video.
Okay, I'm trying.
Acted again in the Southeast Corridor to West Corridor to town of Belmont.
Can you see my video?
Project of the next Silver Line.
We can see your screen, but the audio is terrible.
Dana, you need to stop the video. Dana, you're muted. Looks like Lou has his hand raised.
Yes, I was going to mention this before this came up. This kind of illustrates the problem. If possible, before the meeting, if we have any documents, especially maps, if we could try to get those documents and especially maps out before the meeting via email or, well, I guess that would be the means.
So we did send this video as a link. It's obviously not working. I do have Shayna sent me the slides because she's fabulous. And so let me pull up the slides and I can sort of go through it at a very minimal level. Susan will have to help me with this. We tested this and it worked. Me and Shayna tested this and it worked. So I apologize that it's not working for the group. So give me one moment. Get out of this. I'm just having a hard time getting this off my screen. Oh, I don't want this. Trying to. Here we go. Okay, let me get this off. Let me get.
Mr. Abernathy, I just wanted to clarify, was there something you were saying that if you wanted to send something out to the group or?
So what I think what Lou's referring to is typically for the TAC, if I have videos or links, I send that in the agenda embedded and then the TAC members can review it ahead of time. And that's something that we can strive for with the next meeting agendas. Lou?
Well, on something like the video, I tried to access that, and in order to have a printed copy that you can watch, that you can see during the meeting, you have to stop the video and do a screen grab, and it's really time intensive. So mainly the maps, well, that's what we're here for. And mainly the maps, if there are other important documents, would really like to have those in an email attachment so we can have them in hand while the meeting's going on.
That's an excellent point, Lou. Yeah, so in the future with agenda items, we can send their slides, we can send them ahead of time.
Yes. Okay, let's try this again. Can everyone see my screen?
Looks like before you get started, looks like Kerry raised his hand.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I just had a quick question. I don't recall getting any type of an advice, email or otherwise, that had this link in it regarding the video. Where would it have been sent or who to?
It was in the very first email that I sent out with the doodle poll in it. It also had this link in there.
All right. Again, it would have been beneficial to have it in the information that came for this meeting, rather than for the invite to when we were going to schedule. But all right, I can go back and find it. I just wanted to make sure that I hadn't missed it, for some other reason. Okay, thank you.
We will take your advice and we will make sure to embed everything in the agenda. And as the mayor will attest, we had to pull this group and meeting together very quickly. So we're going to change gears, and Susan and I are going to tag team just going through this presentation with you all, so that you have. Oh, I'm sorry. Did Lou have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to add on to that. The video is somewhere an hour and 46 minutes into the commission meeting, so it's really awkward. So I'm giving this information to the person who responded there. You'll have to know, your best bet is to find out what point in that video, time-wise, that the CATS presentation occurs.
Thank you.
Okay, and we will send out this PDF as well. So again, this presentation was presented by Andy, who is with the Silverline, the Link Silverline, program. This happened. This says June 26th, but that's not correct. Oh, that is, I don't know where that date came from. So that is not the correct date. He must be giving this presentation to.
That would have been May 26th.
May 26th. It was May 26th. I'm completely confused by that date. Okay, so he was going to go through an introduction, how we got here, the Link Silverline program, advancing the Silverline program, and then sort of the conclusion of where we were back in late May, how we got here. So there's a lot of planning efforts that have gone through CATS through the years, starting in 2026. Okay, Lou, do you have another question, or are you just trying to?
No, I was just trying to make the screen bigger. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. So there were, lots of studies, and, we're in 2020, and obviously it takes a very long time to think about these big infrastructure projects, and it takes a long time to build up. So some of those highlights, 2007, the Blue Line opened. We had the Gold Line, which is, downtown streetcar, operation in 2015. You have the Blue Line extension, which happened in 2018. And then CATS made several updates to their 2030 plan. And then, right now they're trying to figure out how to get the Silverline, up and running and, do all the work that needs to be done in order to get it funded. Because right now it's a great idea, but it's not funded for construction yet. Some of the things that we really, they're looking towards is really the reliable transit is really what's important. We're really trying to create a community in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County and the surrounding counties to have some sort of reliable travel time, because as you all know, if it's not COVID-19 time, there's a lot of congestion, and it moves through our town from Union into Charlotte. And then the same thing happens on all the other sides of town, because there are a lot of employment centers. You got the employment center downtown, you got Valentine, you got folks going up north. Is someone using their lawnmower? Can everyone put themselves on mute? That may help it. Are you guys getting a lot of feedback, or is it just me? Okay, well, I'm going to keep going. Can everyone
Looks like everyone. It looks like everyone's muted.
Okay. Okay, so obviously there's the CATS's mission is to increase mobility, and I think they're trying hard to do that. Silverline program. So basically, this is the alignment. And again, can you guys see can you all see my mouse? Yes, okay. So we have this over here in Belmont. Initially that the line did not extend into Belmont. You can see when you travel west from east, you're going to hit the airport, and they're trying to figure out, that's one of those points of those 25 points I was talking about, to get everyone to, through the whole corridor, and decision points that CATS right now has to make. And then obviously it goes on the west side, it sort of wraps around downtown. It spends some quality time on sort of 74-ish, and then it sort of goes through Village Lakes, Galleria, and then through CPCC. Interestingly, actually, here's the little extension. Here's that extension into Stallings potentially as well. And so this purple line is the LPA. Again, that is the locally preferred alternative that has been approved. So we do have an approved alignment that's been adopted, endorsed by the various towns and organizations. One of the things that they're doing right now is they're looking at the design, obviously, of this. They're looking at something called transit-oriented design. So that is something that was not a part of the Blue Line that they're doing on this study. It's a separate grant that they got from the feds to look at development patterns right around the station areas, which is really beneficial for a small town like us, that we don't have access to these very fine consultants to look and do some really in-depth analysis of how things could shape up if different stations are located within our town. And that's going on right now as well. And then there's a third study, which is called the Rail Trail Study, which has not officially kicked off yet, but it's basically, and I don't know how many of you have been on the Blue Line, but there is, for sections of it, there is a trail adjacent to the line, and it's been very successful. And a lot of transit tries to, whether it's just sidewalks or a multi-use path or a side path, tries to have that pedestrian corridor alongside of it for, recreation, but also really for mobility purposes. So those are the three studies, and this is a lot of work. This is a huge undertaking, and CATS has, I don't know how many consultants they have on board, but it's a tremendous amount. Susan, did you want to say something? Okay, I'll keep on going. Okay, so what are things they want to do? The refinement of the local preferred alternative, and that's basically what you all are, helping us figure out. They did this already, right? They already went through this process, but we have to make sure that they're sort of throwing other options at us, and we've got to make sure that they're sound or they're better than the locally preferred alternative. Because if we're all decided at the end of the day that the locally preferred alternative is the way we want to go, that's very acceptable answer. It's just they want us to look at all these other things. Let's see, what else are they? Advanced design and cost estimation. Susan can talk about some of that. I'm not as familiar with the hard design stuff. If you want to put your 2 cents on that, Susan.
Yeah, sure. So it looks like this slide is basically going over the components that CATS is going to undertake in order to get to the final design, right? So we see the first is 15% design, 30% design, and 65% design. At that point, that's when they start looking at right-of-way. But right now, they are only going up to the 15% design. That's all they have contracted for right now. And in order to get to that point, they need to make sure that the alignment that they pick is what's going to be most beneficial to all communities. The capital cost estimate is also important because we can't fund this, they can't fund this with change from the couch cushions, right? So they will be submitting for grants to get construction dollars for this project. Now, a great way to do that is to make sure you have buy-in from multiple stakeholders, but you need to have a really good cost estimate because it's tough to go back and get an additional $2 billion or whatever it is, should the cost estimate be low. At each stage of design plans, you refine that cost estimate. The risk assessment is something that happens continuously throughout the project. The more design you have, the less risk you need to build in to your cost estimates. The environmental process, that's the next bullet over, is a requirement from the Federal Transit Authority. And it's also something we want them to do, right? We want them to make sure that there's no adverse environmental impacts. Now, environmental impacts is a really broad topic, and it also includes marginalized communities, as well as the Carolina Hill Splitter and all those critters that are species that that are protected. The third-party coordination is, well, technically we're a third party too, right? Because we're not Charlotte Area Transit. But when you look at right-of-ways impacted and roads crossed and the railroads, this is all stuff they had to work with in the Blue Line, and they're gonna have to work with again here on the Silver Line.
And I would add to this third-party coordination, we have a interesting stakeholder with Novant coming potentially very close or impacted by this property, because I don't know if folks follow what goes on in the Raleigh area, but they were trying to get a light rail off the ground there, and Duke Hospital basically helped shut that down. And so, there's interesting relationships with hospitals and rail lines, and that's something that is within our town, and we're working towards, and we're having, I shouldn't say we, but the CATS organization is having meetings with them as well to sort of help that relationship along. And then, Susan, do you want to finish it off with public involvement?
Sure. So public involvement, we were lucky enough to get our town hall meeting. I don't know if any of you were able to attend that, but they kicked that off in March, and the first one was at Matthews Town Hall. It was very well attended. Everyone I talked to had very, very positive feedback on that. Raise your hand if you attended that town hall meeting at Town Hall. Yep. Lou, you weren't there? I thought I saw you there. No? All right. Well, public involvement in any government project is extremely important. And just because you're on this committee doesn't mean that you're exempt from all other. You can absolutely participate in any of the other CATS public involvement. Dana and I will be giving you information about the CATS website, any surveys that come out, any social media that comes out. And absolutely, you can submit your input separately as an individual to CATS during this whole entire process. Public involvement is it's so important. That's why we have the Transportation Advisory Committee. That's why we have you, and we really appreciate you helping out with this component.
Great, thank you. Okay. So, again.
I'm sorry, Dana. It looks like Chris Huff has a question.
Okay.
Yeah. Susan, you said they're authorized to go to 15% design. Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Is that the extent of the funding allocation thus far, or was there additional funding allocated but not authorized yet? Do you know?
So that's a very splitting hairs question. So I don't want to be incorrect, but it's my understanding that they're currently funded to go to 15% design. Okay. Now we can absolutely follow up in an email for a more accurate statement.
It's fine. I try to follow it, and I thought they got additional funding, but it wasn't clear to me exactly what the funding got them to beyond what is additionally or what is currently been authorized. So it's all right. I don't want to put you in a corner.
That's right, unless Dana
I just didn't know if you knew offhand.
Yeah, Dana doesn't have an answer on that either. All right, thanks, Chris. Thanks for the stumping, Chris. Appreciate it.
We promise Andy will be on some of these calls with us, who is the project manager. So save all of your hard questions for him. He loves hard questions. He's really good at that. So, this slide basically looks at, why CATS wants to leverage, community support. Again, they're selling their message of transit through our area, improving mobility, encourage transit supportive development, enhancing community character, expanding opportunity. And, I think we've seen, I hope that most of you folks have ridden the Blue Line. I don't know if you all have, but I know I rode that Blue Line the first day it opened. My son was tiny and he wears like Thomas the Train hat, and it was so great. And that rail line from what was 07 to now, the landscape has changed so significantly through those stops. And while I think the town, we can create what we want to create. We don't have to look like whatever Charlotte did, but we have an opportunity here to create something different if that is the will of planning board and the board of commissioners. But it does provide an interesting opportunity for the town. This is great. So this is that trail I was speaking of. So this is on the current Blue Line. They did this really cool mural that looks like a rug. And folks really are excited about this rail trail concept. And that's something that we can't, that was Susan's brainchild. And we got grant money for it from NCDOT, and it's just been caught up in procurement through the city of Charlotte. And so we're hopeful that will get kicked off we're hoping by June. Well, it is June. It was supposed to be happening before the end of this fiscal year, which is the last day of June. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, because that's a great compliment. And it's something that we do have to study, or we have to include that in the thought process as this develops.
And giving credit where credit's due, it was Hazen that spearheaded that.
Okay, very good. But it came from the town of Matthews. That's what's important. Okay, so advancing the Silverline program. So, again, they're doing lots of rounds of engagement, and I know Andy can speak much more eloquently to like all the different things that they're currently doing. I mean, they're doing public engagement now virtually. They're reaching out to communities. They're working with a lot of staff, so they're continuing. They would have done a lot of public meetings, and that's just unfortunately not happening right now. In which it is what it is. These are all the cities and communities that are stakeholders. Obviously, you see the town of Matthews, but there's a lot of different players. The Charlotte Airport, CSX, which is the rail. We've got lots of, CBCC, which again, in Matthews, we've got a campus that is potentially going to be enhanced or impacted depending on your view. And the Charlotte City Partners, there's lots of different players, and that will make their voices heard. And we want to make sure that the town of Matthews has their voice heard. And that's something that Susan and I and Jay Camp are really working hard with CATS to make sure that we are communicating often. And just so you all know, I'm in weekly meetings with CATS. I mean, it's a very time intensive process that we're going through right now with this project. Hey, what is this slide, Susan?
This is the summary of all of their. If you go to their website, or if you type in CATS Silverline, you can see all the Ask CATS presentations that Andy and John are doing. John Howard is over the Transit-Oriented Development TOD study, and so this is just a summary of what they've collected so far.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And why do we need to refine the Silverline? Engineering evaluation, environmental consideration, changes in the corridor, lessons from the Blue Line, additional coordination with land use and other projects. That lesson from the Blue Line, that I think is really interesting. They're really trying to be smarter. And a lot of the folks who worked on the Blue Line are still around. They're still they're still trying to really improve upon their product and project. And I think we've gone over many of these already, so I'll just keep on rolling. Okay, so this is sort of schedule. They kicked off in January. We, had some refinement workshops in February, just to talk to their, saying, determining options for the LPA again, which is that locally preferred alternative. They did that first round with public engagement, which we were a part of. And then now in the April-May timeframe, they're been presenting. There's a steering committee. There's lots of committees within this project, and they've been presenting sort of different options and trying to make sure that they're getting feedback from very specific stakeholders. Hold on, next slide. Okay, and this is that alignment option slide that I was referring to earlier. Right now, and it may be really hard on your screen to see, so I apologize, but the purple line is that LPA, is the locally preferred alternative, which is already been endorsed. We've got sort of these clustering of other potentials. So some of the other potentials would utilize CSX rails. So they could, in theory, work with CSX and try to be within their right of way to create their transportation, their transit corridor, in part in the CSX right of way. And so you see some of these lines going down the right of way. You've got some purple and blue lines going through and going basically all the way through town. I know Susan and I have some heartburn about these particular alignments. But that's why they're sort of vetting before they go to the public, because while this is a public forum, this meeting, they showed this slide at a board meeting, so it's something that we can share with you. But come the fall, some of these lines are going to be deleted when they go to big public meetings, because they sort of had to throw everything out there so they could say yes or no. And so they have this really complicated framework that we will get into the weeds, and you will see it. And how they're making decision points. And so there's multiple benefits, multiple things that could be adverse to that particular alignment. And they're basically calculating it to see if they can shortlist all of these alignments. In addition, the other sort of cluster of alignments go on to Matthews, West Matthews Street, and Matthews Mint Hill, down IPP to Independence Point Parkway. So those are sort of the three sort of clustering of projects that you will see that we'll continue talking about. All options are not equal, and each have their benefits, risk, and opportunities. And some may even have fatal flaws. And, those are some things that just sometimes dealing with CSX is a fatal flaw because it's so difficult to deal with the railroad companies. It's just, it's very, very difficult. So this piece of, this slide is something that we're going to keep revisiting when we get into the weeds. Okay, so other things they're working on. So that TOD, the transit-oriented design, really is very dependent on the alignment. They want to look at stations. We need to know where the alignment is in order for the transit-oriented design to happen. So they're all very interlinked and have to be sort of spaced out and done in tandem, and sometimes after each other. And our big city adjacent to us, the city of Charlotte, is very well versed in TOD. They have already adopted things on the books, basically, because they have the blue line. We're hoping to get from the consultants some really great language to update our UDO, our basically our documentations and our policies that we can bring forth to the planning board as well as to the Board of Commissioners. And hopefully they'll give us some good language to use on that, because we're going to have to update our documents as we progress. So let's see, in June and early July, that's when they're going to try to get that short list, which will be presented to you all. And then, like I said, in early September, we're going to have that first round of public meetings. I should say CATS is going to have that first round of public meetings. Ultimately, the board, our town board, is going to have to make a recommendation, right? So at the end of the day, the board has to make a recommendation. And somewhere in the September-November timeframe, the town board's going to need to make a recommendation. So this task force will need to figure out what the recommendation is before the town board needs to make that recommendation. They, CATS, want to make their ultimate decision, I think, by their February meeting. So the MTC, the Metropolitan Transit Commission, wants to make their decision by February, so they're going to need to hear it in January. So probably by December, the latest, is when they, CATS, would like the town to have something for them. And thank you from Andy Mock. So that is my very quick, very unrehearsed version of Andy's presentation. Susan, what did I miss?
I think that was great, Dana. So I'm wondering if everyone can give me a thumbs up that you're perfectly clear on everything that Dana just went over. No. Oh, Scott is. All right. We got one taker. Okay. So, Bill's perfectly clear too. Well, great. Scott and Bill, you both have a quiz. We'll send that to you in an email. No, that was a great, I mean, it was fast. What I really want to impress too, that wasn't very clear in this slide, is that Charlotte Area Transit staff and their consultants are going through a very, very rigorous and complicated decision matrix process. And we will be sharing parts of that with you in some of our next meetings. It's intense. It's a lot of information, but they want to make it very clear why decisions are made. And so we'll be doing some checks and balances. Staff is already doing that with them, but your input will also be really great to help them with those decision points.
Susan, I've got a question.
Sure.
Just so that I'm clear, is it the charge of this group to endorse one of the lines that's already been drawn, or could they come up with something totally different?
Well, Mayor, you formed the group, so maybe you could tell us.
Hey, man, I'm open to anything, but I'm just wondering, will it be rejected as out of line?
Yeah, this is Scott. That was my question as well, as we go through what the focus of this group, understanding the goal for alignment of path, knowing that a lot of work already to define the 5 or 6 paths that were laid out there. Is this group trying to select today which path is the better path, or are we looking for refinement of the number 1 path or refinement of a secondary path that we recommend? And maybe we'll get into that as we go through the weeds. I don't know.
That's right. We will be giving
Susan,
you. Yes, Mike.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say one thing to share, Mr. Mayor and everybody else, was that probably, gosh, it's been about 4 months ago, I was invited as part of a development group, and there were a bunch of people that were involved. And the way the Charlotte group explained it to our group was that there is an opportunity to make adjustments. So I think you've got some latitude, but obviously there is, to everybody's point, there is a lot of thought that has gone into these options, and certainly what we don't know are the flaws that perhaps made other options not even show up on the table.
I just don't want to see a good idea, rejected because it's not drawn as a line. So if somebody in this committee's got an idea for something that's slightly different, Wyatt, I think that's probably good advice, that we probably don't want to draw a brand new line from start to end through Matthews, but if there certainly could probably be some deviations if they were reasonable, and then we would have to present them to the CATS and see if they'll accept them. But I just want to make sure, Dana, you and Susan have that understanding as well.
Yeah, and I would say, because we're in such constant communication with CATS, if there's something that we need immediate eyes on, the consultant team needs to look at, we can do that. I mean, if there's something early on that you're like, wait, why didn't they do X? I mean, we can be on the phone the next day with, WSP, to have those discussions. So I think it's now or never. Like, this is a time to really take a long, hard look at this. Bill, I see your hand up.
Sure. So I think we've heard it pretty clear from 3 people, and I'll chime in as the 4th one, to say that the objective of this committee, I think we could probably document that a little bit more clearly. The route of the Silver Line coming through Matthews is broadly the objective, right? We want to have a voice into the specific and the minute route coming through Matthews, whether that means adjusting it by a block in one direction or another, or just having to say where the stations are, that sort of thing. But if you could help us out, Dana and Susan, by just clearly stating that objective, and then if we could also document for each meeting, what is our broad goal of each meeting.
Sure, we can absolutely do both of those things. This particular meeting was a very broad overview of introduction and sort of getting to know how we all think and want to sort of move forward. There's been a lot of quiet voices in the room, and so I don't want to put anyone on the spot if you have nothing to say, but I would love to, we made this sort of very complicated presentation. We're throwing a lot at you, but like Fred and Lynn, Jennifer, Bo, do you all have any commentary? David, I just want to make sure that this is a weird format, right? This is not a normal, we're not sitting around the room with one another. We're in this virtual meeting, and I just want to make sure that all of our voices are heard.
Is there a high definition version, the PDF, that has all 5 alternatives on it? Because the one that's in the slides is really hard to look at.
And I think that was purposeful when he gave the presentation to the board in May. I think he was doing it as he was reluctant to, he didn't want to share too much because we're still in process. And I will make sure, so between this meeting and next, I will, if that's, I think that's a reasonable request for this group to look at. So let me see what I can get my hands on, and that we can, make sure that we can get into the weeds if that's something that, it sounds like everyone's interested in really getting into the weeds. So that's great. And we will, Susan, maybe we'll use concept board. I'm not sure. We'll have to think about what direction we're going to go to, because it's hard to look at those concepts in detail in this format, but the consultants have done a pretty good job of making it reasonable. So maybe that's something we'll do at our next meeting, Susan. We'll have to discuss it with Andy. Wyatt, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I apologize. I promise I'll shut up after this. I guess my one question about the sort of the case studies and things that have occurred along both ends of the blue line, the first phase and then the second phase, are there any particular areas that, Susan, from your or Dana's perspective, might be good to study and perhaps most relevant to what Matthews is going to be looking at and how this might impact the town long term?
I think that's a really good question, Wyatt. And I was actually going to suggest to Dana that we kind of go over some of the topics for our next couple meetings. Mm-hmm. And one of those is she and Andy are going to figure out how to get you guys a virtual tour of the Blue Line. And because that's one of the things that Andy recommends, is to look at each of the stations and station areas and see what resonates with all of you. What do you like? What do you not like? Mm-hmm. And we've said to them, Matthews, we don't think wants to become South End, right? High-rise apartments and luxury condominiums or whatever. That's not really the feel of Matthews. And so hopefully in the next couple meetings, this recording can be made available and or be shown during our meeting, and everyone can get a sense. If you don't feel comfortable now because of COVID riding the light rail, this would be a way for you to do so with staying safe. And so I hesitate to answer that question, Wyatt, because really I would like to hear from this committee what speaks to you on some of those station areas. Because to me right now, not a lot, because it is very, you've got the university, that's not really Matthewsy. There's, South End, there's Uptown. It's varied.
Right. And question. So the primary riders of this, are they Matthews residents going out to other places? Are they people coming to Matthews, going to the Sportsplex, going to CPCC? Do we have like a targeted audience, or I guess riders?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, and we can have Andy speak to that more in detail. And they do rider studies, like where they think the ridership's going to come from, like the origins and destinations, if you will. Clearly, we're going to get folks, depending on where they park, they'll want to basically come in from Union County, dump their car, go into Charlotte, right? That's, the rider who's the commuter. Some of the visions for downtown Matthews, is it a destination? Is it less of a commuter and more of a, hey, everyone wants to get off Matthews downtown because, and just sort of get off, walk to the restaurants or whatever that looks like. If it's closer to the hospital, the hospital, Novant has 1,000 employees, so that could be a very strong destination to get their workers and their, potential patients to and from the hospital. I know down in the Stallings area, Atrium is building a hospital, one of their satellite hospitals, and they're very interested in getting that light rail right in their campus. They really, really want it in their campus because they feel like that would be a huge generator for them. So I think those questions, those ridership questions are really important and valid. We don't have numbers right now to give you, but that's something that we can, see what Andy's team is working on to make sure that you all understand that ridership piece of it. So yeah, I will happily try to get some research for that for you all.
I could just add a comment. I've served on a couple committees now, and I've gotten to know the CAT CEO, John Lewis, and he's very interested in what Lynn just asked about. Who are the ridership and what's important to the ridership, both on buses and light rail. And they've done a lot of surveys, and what they found people mostly want is reliable transportation that's clean.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have spent a ton of money making sure that their buses and light rail are reliable. They're going to come every 20 minutes. They got to be there every 20 minutes, and they're very clean. And that was based on surveys of the actual riders. And I suspect there'll be quite a lot of people coming to Matthews and a lot of people from Matthews leaving as well. I think it'll go both ways, but we'll have to wait and see. That's a very interesting point, though. Who will be riding this? Who's going to be the customer?
Mm-hmm. And what does that customer want? Yeah, exactly.
Right. And what do they want? And they're very attuned to what that customer wants.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, did you have a question? Did I see your hand raised?
I do. Other than CPCC, are there any anchor stops that are required by either CATS or recommended by the town that would drive an alignment, or is it we're trying to determine the alignment and then determine the stations?
The chicken or the egg?
Yeah, I guess. Do we have any constraints other than CPCC? First off,
I don't think I don't see us having constraints. Susan, Mayor, you can jump in here, but CPCC is a valuable partner. So that's great. We've had, just so you all know, like Wyatt said, CATS has been having a lot of one-on-one meetings with different organizations, CPCC being one of them, Novant, Atrium, the hospital systems. So I feel like it's really up to us to influence if we feel like they're missing the mark.
Okay.
I think is what our job is.
So CATS hasn't dictated that we must stop at the hospital or
No.
I can say that a lot of the feedback I've gotten has from constituents is they'd like to see a stop somewhere relatively close to our downtown, which is so vibrant and kind of the heartbeat of Matthews. So where that is, we don't know. Dana, you and I have talked about this. I don't think there's a desire to put a surface parking lot where people would park and ride in downtown Matthews, but somewhere relatively close to our downtown sure would be nice from my perspective, if it's possible, and that's what you guys, if you agree that that's something that would be valuable. But I think there would be a draw for folks to come into our downtown Matthews and provide a lot of business for so many businesses and restaurants and things that are there, library, hospital, a lot of stuff walkable from that perspective.
And I think to the mayor's point, we haven't really discussed economic development at all. And I don't know if we're going to go that route, but, Andy talks about stories on the Blue Line, and he was saying that, Susan, do you want to jump in?
I was just going to say, we have about 10 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to finish that thought, and then we can move on to next steps
Sure.
and then finish. I did a quick slide with our contact information to put up on the screen for people.
Okay, awesome. I was just going to say that, there's opportunities because of, if you look at the South Ends or you look at some of the places that are very, very walkable, they've had a lot of interest from national companies to go there. And I don't know if that's something, the town is interested in, but, there are ways to shape it that perhaps that's something that, for the vision for the future. And, you all have to remember that, while we're discussing the alignment now, the construction isn't slated until 2030. So we all have to put that lens on of not today, but in that future year, what does things look like? And I'm going to keep reminding you all of that because it's not, this kind of project does not happen overnight. This is a very long-term project and very visionary. So that's my request to you. And I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to try to figure out where to go back to the slides and get back to the slide deck. So just bear with me 1 second.
Dana, do you want me to just start going through the next meetings while you're doing that? Okay. So next steps from here, Dana had, I think she's trying to find the slide that has the next meeting dates. And we've kind of outlined what we feel like, what information you may want based off of your questions today. We'll work with Bill Stevens to make sure we're giving you the information that you need in order to be brought up to speed. So the next meeting will be a lot more about the lines that you saw. We'll probably start talking about economic development, transit-oriented development, the decision matrix, the background of what CATS has done between January and now. Hopefully the meeting after that will have our virtual tour. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Is that me? Thumbs up, you can hear me? Okay. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have a virtual tour, maybe the meeting after that. Now in July, CATS wants to have meetings with small groups. You're a small group, so CATS, we'll make sure that Andy, the project manager, can have a meeting with you where he comes onto Zoom with us. Now in August, then we can discuss your reactions to our meeting with Andy. And in September is when CATS wants to have public meetings. So our goal is to get you to a point where you understand the alignments through Matthews, the pros, the cons, economic impacts, the risks, the benefits, so that when CATS shares for the public meeting, you know what you're going into, and you should be able to understand and expect that what they're seeing is what you've expected. And hopefully too, what you're seeing is what you've provided input to, right? Dana says she meets with them every week, multiple times. I would say she meets with them probably on average 3 times a week. Okay. But she is part of the core team meeting that meets every Monday. And so as we move through this process with you, she will be sharing feedback with the team. All right. So here she's brought up the dates for you. So that looks like there's 4 meetings until we get to that September CATS public input meetings. All right, so if you don't have these on your calendar already, please do write them down and reserve that. It's our understanding everything will be Zoom. It will be virtual for all of these meetings until further notice. Okay.
And we can send out Shana, if you can send out meeting dates for everyone, that would be great. And we are, I think it would be great to, try to figure this all out and then, sort of go into September and listen to the public, right? We're going to have this whole, CATS is going to have this whole public, did you hear all the feedback? Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Hopefully it's good now. I was having a lot of feedback on my end. So hopefully by August, we'll have a good idea of what we want, and then we'll go into the September meetings and you all can participate in that public engagement, but to see what the rest of the community, whether we're sort of the pulse of the community that we think we are, will be sort of an interesting exercise. And then ultimately, like Susan said, we will have to make a recommendation to the town board. So
Hey, Dana, I see Kerry, I think, has his hand raised. Sorry, Kerry, you were off my screen. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how long your hand's been raised, but please do participate now.
Thank you. Most of the meeting. Peanut butter cup, by the way. Okay. It's my understanding as I've listened, then one of the expectations we should have is that first, you're going to ask us to review the 5 current scenarios that have been developed over the past many years. You're going to educate us on the logic, the data, and the information behind that. And then as we go through interactive discussion, we're going to be asking ourselves and each other, what other questions do we have? What things don't ring solid, or what things we'd like to get more information about from CATS or from town staff or from public? Is that a fair first step or two?
Yeah, I think that's a fair. I know you all want to get in the weeds. We have still more education to do, but we'll dive in the weeds, and I guess we'll educate as we go. So we just have to figure out the appropriate format to get that information to you all.
I understand. I want to make sure, we're sort of setting that goal. I'm just trying to make sure I understand an expectation of what you'd like us thinking about doing, homework, whatever those things may be. Second, you mentioned a lot of interaction with CATS. Is your expectation that we as a committee will interact with them in various times in some brainstorming, question and answer, or just presentation digestion?
Andy has all the meeting dates. He knows that we're going to call on him and probably John to attend our meetings. So, I feel like I can speak to a lot of your questions. I don't work for CATS. I work for the town of Matthews. So we want to make sure we're getting you the right information so your decision-making is spot on. So
yeah, well, it is an example you mentioned earlier, and this is my last comment, would be if they're beginning their engineering process and they're beginning to discover potential faults in any of the scenarios, they're going to ask us to at least listen to, or we're going to want to understand what those things are when we weigh whether or not that merits a change or any other factors. So they'll present those things through you to us, directly to us. How do you anticipate that discussion?
So what we were mentioning earlier is they're doing something called their decision-making framework, which we will be sharing with you. And those have all of the benefits and fatal flaws, if you will, sort of listed. And then there's literally commentary for each of those things, and then a check or a X on whether they are how we perceive those things. And so we can really show you some very deep detail. If you have follow-up questions about how they determined X, Y, and Z, we can go into that too. We can get, again, Andy or someone from his team to answer those questions. It's really depending. Look, just so you all know, it's a lot of very detailed information. We've got to make sure that we're serving it to you in chunks that are, that you all can absorb. I mean,
digestible.
An hour and a half every couple of weeks. I mean, this is, I don't know, 50 people are working on this project, to get all this together. So, in terms of the amount of people with all the consultant teams. And so 50 may be high, but it's a lot of people, a lot of brain power. So we want to make sure that, we're happy to have some offline conversations with folks who, maybe in this committee who want to really, really go into the weeds. But I just want to make sure that everyone realizes that we have a lot to get through in not a whole lot of time.
Thank you.
So everyone, I've put up on the screen, in case you don't have it, the contact information for the staff that will be assisting. I think you guys win as the task force with the most staff assigned to it. You can reach out to any of us. Sheena, I hope I got your phone number right. I had to do a quick, I don't know, I just use a button on my phone to call her. So Dana or Shayna, I hope I have your number correct, but this is
It's good.
all right. Thank you. This is, Dana is your staff liaison, but you can reach out to any of us.
And Jay's on vacation, or he would have been here. So he apologizes. And we'll send this via email too. So when we send out the follow-up email from this, Shayna's taking minutes. We'll send out minutes. We'll send out further contact information. We'll send out the PDF that I just showed from Andy and the video if you all want to watch Andy's presentation as well before our next meeting. And so we are at 8:31. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time because I know everyone wants to go get their ice cream now. And so is there any follow-up questions, thoughts, final comments before we wrap up and say goodnight?
Feel free to interrupt me, anybody, if you have comments. This is Bill. I just wanted to reiterate that we have an opportunity here, I think through Dana and Susan, particularly Dana, to provide some consistent, quick feedback to CATS. So as you get questions, as you get ideas, I think it's worth us to have, even in between the every other week meeting. I think it'd be worth us to let Dana know those thoughts. Do we have the opportunity per town rules to have a group email going?
Shayna,
That is against the open meeting law. Any emails is according to our town attorney would be an open meeting or a public meeting. So that's why everybody is BCC'd.
Okay.
So what would be the best way to get information out to this crew?
If you send it to me, then I can BCC everybody on the information. So if you want information to be sent, I guess send it to me and I'll forward it on to the committee members.
Okay, thank you.
What about questions that may be posed to CATS? Should we go through town staff for that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So if I send an email to you guys, okay.
Yeah,
that's right, Chris. I was going to say, unless you want to post to CATS as an individual with a comment, but if you have a question about the alignment or part of this group, then go ahead and send it to Shayna or Dana.
Yeah,
so we can.
Also, Susan, I would hope that you would help make my questions a little more intelligent. So.
Chris, and team, can I suggest that if you do have a question for CATS, that you at least consider CCing Susan and Dana on the email?
Certainly.
Yeah, and if you want to send it to us first and us forward it, if we get an interesting answer back, we can blind copy everyone in the task force. So, as long as we can't have a email discussion about something, but we can share information with you all.
Lou, did you have a question? Did I see your hand up? Lou, you're muted. Could you unmute yourself? Shayna, can you unmute Lou? It's not working for me. Lou?
I can ask him to unmute, but I can't unmute him.
There we go. I think you figured it out. Yep. You're still muted, Lou.
Oh, I can't hear him.
Lou, I'm sorry. You're still muted.
There you go. You got it.
Okay. Before that happens again, there's my understanding that you can email less than half of a committee directly without violating the meeting laws, but that's just another option, I suppose.
I can talk to the town attorney to see what that number would be, and I will. But yeah, you can set up smaller meetings where it's not a quorum, but once you have a quorum, it's a public meeting.
Lou,
Right.
that makes me a little uncomfortable. I'm not sure. Could you share the basis of why you would exclude half of the committee or task force?
Because it leans towards a discussion prior to that's not public. It leads to members of the committee being led outside a public environment.
Well,
I don't
guess
know. That's the last I heard. Maybe it's not even worth mentioning.
Well, why don't we, until Shayna, I guess, can talk to the town attorney, we are going to go with what is standard, which is the blind copy, everyone. And we'd like most of the discussions to happen, well, all of the discussions that happen in this forum, I think is appropriate until we're told otherwise. But then again, you all are free to, you've seen our phone numbers. If you have a question or concern, we can throw stuff on the agenda for you to make sure that we're capturing everything that that you all want us to capture. So I'm going to say thank you to everyone because it's now 8:36 and I want to tuck my kids in. And so have a wonderful evening. We will be in touch, probably in the, let's see, we're hoping to get the agenda out the Friday before the meeting is I think what Shayna and I discussed. So we'll try to, so next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday, you should get an email from us with, agenda, minutes, and all of that good stuff. And so thank you all. I really appreciate everyone seems still awake. And we will regroup, in 2 weeks.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.